Welcome to my series of basketball videos where I'll be comparing various NBA greats against each other. I'm doing this because I find that a lot of the basketball videos comparing players on YouTube are too focused on the big names and sometimes compare players from different positions. Lots of people compare Jordan to LeBron and Kobe to Duncan, for example, due to their similar levels of achievements, but since those players play different positions and have different styles of play, it's not an interesting comparison. In this series, I want to do comparisons between not just more well-known players, but players from days past, in the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, and the ABA as well, that most modern fans probably do not have too much knowledge about. Also, as much as possible, I want to compare players that play similar positions and/or similar play styles. To me, that's a more interesting and fruitful comparison. I'll be using 8 different metrics to judge each player. Scoring. This category will be defined by each player's career points per game, peak points per game, both regular season and playoffs, and number of scoring titles. Rebounding. This category will be defined by each player's career rebounds per game, peak rebounds per game, both regular season and playoffs, and number of rebounding titles. Passing. This category will be defined by each player's career assists per game, peak assists per game, both in regular season and playoffs, and number of assist titles. Efficiency advanced metrics. This category will be defined by each player's career true shooting percentage, PER, and win shares per 48. Reason I use true shooting percentage is because it's more fair to guards. Defense. This category will be defined by each player's all defensive selections, defensive win shares, and defensive player of the year awards. The reason I'm not using blocks, steals, or defensive box plus minus is because I want to compare the achievements of older players that modern fans might not have too much knowledge about, and players in the 1960s and early 1970s do not have these stats tracked. Awards. This category will be defined by all-star appearances, all-NBA selections, MVPs, finals MVPs, and championships as a top 3 player. The reason I have to count championships as a top 3 player on the team is because otherwise you'll get into the situation where, for example, Robert Horry has 7 rings and Karl Malone has 0, and it's not representative of how much better a player is if you weren't a top 3 player on that team contributing to a championship. Also, I'll be including ABA stats and awards and using them equivalent to their respective NBA stats and awards. Also, no All-NBA third team selections are included because All-NBA third teams weren't added until the late 1980s, which is unfair to older players. Playoffs. This category will be defined by how many Eastern Conference Finals or Western Conference Finals and Finals a player has been to, and how many championships they won as a top 3 player on the team. Yes, this is supplementary to the awards category because it also rewards players for making it far in the playoffs, even if they don't necessarily win at all. Totals. This category will be defined by longevity, how many total points, rebounds, assists, and win shares a player has accumulated throughout their career, and rewards a player's durability. After all, a lot of people say the best ability is availability. And of course, this is only going to be my opinion from comparing the available metrics, since I've not watched most of these players live or even been born when some of these players have been playing. And to keep it fair, I'm judging them based on how they did in their own era. There's no comparing what this NBA player played in today's era or the 1960s, none of that. It'll be strictly based on their stats and accomplishments within their own era against that era's competition, which makes the most sense to me. So I hope you guys enjoy this comparison video and hopefully learn something new from it. In the 36th episode, we'll take a look at 2 all-time shooting guards who were both crucial pieces of a dynasty. Both beloved by their fanbase, both were secondary scoring options for their team while supplanting their team's main superstar, and both won 4 championships fulfilling that role. Manu Ginobili is known as one of the greatest international players ever, a tenacious, fearless guard who came off the bench for the dynastic Tim Duncan Spurs as one of their top 3 players, while Klay Thompson is known as one of the greatest shooters of all time, the other half of the Splash Brothers alongside Steph Curry for the modern Golden State Warriors dynasty. So which player had the greater career? Let's find out. In the scoring category, this one is actually quite close, although the numbers look misleading, because although Klay's scoring averages are much higher, we also have to take into account the fact that Manu often came off the bench. Manu averaged 13.3 points per game for his career, peaking at 19.5 points per game in 2008, and 14 points per game in the playoffs, peaking at 20.9 points per game in 2005. Klay averaged 19.8 points per game for his career, peaking at 22.3 points per game in 2017, and 19.2 points per game in the playoffs, peaking at 24.3 points per game in 2016. However, when adjusted for per 36 minutes, Manu's scoring average is closer to 19 points a game, while Klay's is still higher at 21 points a game. Both players had the ability to score quite well, although in different ways. Manu is well known for popularizing the Euro step and was a much better shot creator than Klay, especially with his ability to drive to the basket and score in crafty ways. However, Klay is one of the best catch-and-shoot players of all time and also one of the greatest scorers ever when he's on a hot streak, as evidenced by his famous 37 points in one quarter performance back in 2015 and his 60-point performance in 2016. Although this category is quite close, I'll give Klay the slight edge here due to his all-time catch and shoot ability and the fact that he's virtually unstoppable when he's hot. In the rebounding category, it's pretty dead even as both players averaged the same rebounds per game for both the regular season and playoffs, although Manu peaked a bit higher. Manu averaged 3.5 rebounds per game for his career, peaking at 4.8 per game in 2008, and 4 rebounds per game in the playoffs, peaking at 6 a game in 2010. Klay also averaged 3.5 rebounds a game for his career, but peaked at 4.1 per game in 2023, and also averaged 4 rebounds a game for the playoffs, peaking at 4.6 per game in 2013. Manu peaked a little bit higher, but overall I'm going to say this category is a wash as neither player has a huge advantage over the other in this category. In the passing category, this one is definitely not as close. Manu was a gifted passer with near point guard-like passing ability at times, while Klay was mainly the player other teammates passed to, but he rarely did any kind of playmaking for the team. Manu averaged 3.8 assists per game for his career, peaking at 4.8 per game in 2010 and 2011, and 3.8 assists per game in the playoffs as well, peaking at 6 per game in 2010. Klay averaged 2.3 assists per game for his career, peaking at 2.9 per game in 2015, and 2.2 assists per game for the playoffs, peaking at 3.6 per game in 2014. It's clear here that Manu is a better facilitator and distributor and the more skilled passer, so this one goes to Manu. In the efficiency and advanced metrics category, both were very efficient players and very good shooters, although Klay is an all-time shooter. However, while their efficiency is similar, Klay trails Manu the other advanced categories, PER, win shares per 48 by quite a bit, so ultimately I'll have to give this category to Manu. In the defense category, it's interesting because although Klay is known as a very solid defender and a top defensive stopper for his team alongside Draymond Green and Andre Iguodala, Manu's defense was underrated and he was also very good both on help defense and at hounding his matchups due to his high drive and stamina. And even though Klay has an all-defensive selection and Manu does not, the win shares actually favor Manu. However, Manu also played more games than Klay, so ultimately both players are very solid defenders, and I'll have to call this category a tie. In the awards category, both players won 4 championships as a top 3 player on the team. However, Klay has more all-star appearances, and part of this reason is because Manu often came off the bench as the 6th man, thus his numbers don't look quite as impressive because of that. Hence, fans didn't vote him in as much. It's worth noting that although I don't count All-NBA third teams, both also have 2 All-NBA third selections. Again, it's pretty close here, but I'll give Klay the edge because of all those extra all-star appearances. In the playoffs category, this is also interesting because Klay reached 6 NBA Finals, which is a lot and would be hard to match normally, but Manu reached 5 NBA Finals and also had 3 Western Conference Finals appearances in addition. Does 1 Finals appearance equal 3 Western Conference Finals appearances? Well, that's hard to say, but I'm going to say it's close enough to be a tie. Both players were incredibly successful in the playoffs. In the longevity category, this one easily goes to Manu, as he played 16 mostly healthy seasons while Klay missed 2 whole seasons due to injury. Klay is not known for his durability, so this one easily goes to Manu. So when all the categories are summed up, Manu takes the passing, efficiency, and totals categories, while Klay takes the scoring and awards categories, with the rest being a tie, giving Manu Ginobili the slight edge. Manu Ginobili was a beloved player both internationally and within the Spurs fanbase. He was tough and tenacious on the court while being a great teammate and easy to coach as well. These attributes helped make him an all-time winning player and 4-time NBA champion. Meanwhile, Klay Thompson is also a beloved player within the Warriors fanbase, an all-time shooter, Steph Curry's invaluable scoring partner, and also known for being a selfless teammate as well. These attributes made Klay a 4-time champion as well. I think if I were to make an all-time list of most likable players, Manu and Klay would definitely both be on there. I hope you guys enjoyed this comparison. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for the next comparison video.